What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of our review of season 1 of The Wheel of Time. Last episode. My name is Chip.
I'm Brittany.
And if it's your first time here, I encourage you to go back and watch the other reviews that we've posted to this point. But if you're stubborn and just want to keep watching, I want to let you know that we've both seen the show multiple times at this point. This is not an initial review. And I have read the books many times. Brittany has not read the books.
I'm a non-book reader.
And we'll be giving you our thoughts on the episode from those two perspectives. So without further ado, let's jump into the cold open. What did you think of this scene? I got to know from a non-book reader perspective what you thought of this.
I mean, obviously, I think you can put some, things together and you realize that this is the former dragon, even if you don't remember his name, like you kind of get it. And he is speaking to this, I guess, the Amarlin seat and 3,000 years ago. And they are having this conversation and he kind of like wants to go ahead and like go gung-ho against the Dark One. He's like, I'm the guy, like it ends today. And she's like, whoa, we have to back up. Like if we don't do this correctly, it could taint the power. We could go back 1,000 years, blah, blah, blah. Just on an initial review or even coming back, I have a feeling that it's like a foreshadowing maybe in the past they didn't work together and that's why it didn't work, or maybe there was a level of Lews Therin being overconfident, maybe a little too excited, and just the idea of like what happened in the past was really cool so that you could also put a face to Lews Therin, the former dragon reborn from 3,000 years ago, and also sort of the politics of the time. It's kind of similar to what's going on, except it's way more technologically advanced.
Yeah, I like everything you just said. I think that sums it up really well. I mean, I thought from my perspective as somebody who's read the books multiple times, this is obviously something that's not in the books at all. They do kind of talk in passing about these events and the way it went down. So to see it go down explicitly was really cool. On top of that, the language that they were using, this fact that they're speaking the old tongue the whole time, I thought was amazing. I really liked that, we finally get to see what the Age of Legend looks like. And again, I thought it was technologically advanced. I didn't think it was going to look that cool, so I was really happy to see that. My only nitpick is Lews Therin. They never refer to him as the Dragon Reborn, and it bothers me that they did, like, oh, you're the Dragon Reborn. It's like, he's just the dragon, right? Lews Therin is the dragon. Rand is the Dragon Reborn. So, that to me was just obviously a nitpick, and I don't think it really matters, and it didn't lessen it for me, but it was just something that stuck in my ear, and I was just like, ah. Other than that, I thought it was amazing. I was so hyped to see this, and I hope we get more flashbacks like this.
Hey,
forward.
Amazon.
Yeah, right.
Let's do a flashback of the kids when they were younger.
That'd be cool.
And some connection building. Yeah, I thought the cold open was really great. I thought it was really neat to see the world before and what the dragon looked like, and things like that. I thought it was great.
So the rest of the episode is really two main kind of story arcs. You have Rand and Moiraine going through the Blight to the Eye of the World, and the rest of the gang is back at Feldara, and we're going to talk about those two separately just to, so we don't have to jump back and forth like the show does. So we're going to start with the crew in Feldara, which there's a lot here that I feel like there's a lot here that you can tell they went back and redid because Matt was not there, or he was supposed to be in these scenes and they had to rewrite it. But there was still a lot that I liked.
I would say in addition to that, there was a lot that they shoved into this episode.
A lot.
That may or may not have been a good payoff.
Yeah, I agree. You could tell with only 8 episodes, they had to add so much stuff into this episode that I just thought, it felt forced. A lot of it felt forced to me. The fact that Lan declares his undying love in episode 8 seems a little fast to me. I mean, I get it and I understand, but it just seems like too much.
Who is ever writing these quote love stories needs to be stopped. Like, stop making it so over the top. Like, I understand that Lan feels like he might never see Nynaeve again, and maybe that's the reason why this moment was good. But to me, it was just like, you guys have known each other for a few months. Like, you
It's episode
just
8, man.
hooked up. Like, calm down.
Yeah.
It was a little too forced for me. It was too much. And I have heard that the thing that he says to her is actually something that does happen in the books, but like way down the line.
Way down the line, yeah.
And I think there's a time and a place, and it was beautiful words.
I mean, again, it's like you said, it is right from the book, but that's what makes me not like it, because it's like, dude, this took books to get to this point, several books.
And I think that's the problem with the relationship being too soon, is that you don't really have, it felt where the initial like hookup felt so real to me. Like, it felt human, it felt like age appropriate, it felt really, really good, it felt time appropriate. But then you go into being like, I'll love the man you love. And it's like, it's too much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And I was fine. It was like, okay. But that's what this episode was, just hard. So one of the things about this scene that was kind of caught my eye was that Lan kind of asked Nynaeve how to track Moraine. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I thought that was a little out of left field for me. I mean, if this is supposed to be her warder who has been with her for all this time, I'm really going to believe that this random girl out of nowhere figures out how to track her and Lan doesn't know. To me, it just seems like they needed something to put in here to give them a little purpose for them to talk or something. I don't know what it was, but I thought it was a little ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know why. It was just weird, and I'm just like, I don't know. I just felt like it was just a weird episode for me.
I agree.
The other scene that I liked was the opening scene back at Feldara, which was Egwene sort of packing her bags. She's crying. I don't want to say she's crying, but she's upset. And Perrin comes in, and he's like, can't go. Like, Moraine is like the only person who knows how to get there, blah, blah, blah. Egwene says, I love Rand. I'm very upset about this. And Perrin says, so do I. And I loved this moment. Obviously, I've been really thirsting for some connection between the group. And this was a great little line that really connects Perrin and Rand, which I think is the least amount of time we've seen two characters together. So that was kind of nice to see that, he really cares for Rand a lot.
So I really liked seeing Uno and getting some scenes with him. Min was there, and they go and confront Min, and she's like, she obviously sees what's coming, and then kind of everything kind of devolves a little bit there for me. We get Lord Agelmar up on the rafters, and he's, they're trying to decide how they're going to defend the city that they've always defended. And my only nitpick here really is that Lord Agelmar would know that this is not the last battle. And the fact that he calls it the last battle to me is silly, because he's defended the Borderlands forever. Now, yes, this is a huge Trolloc raid. I get it. It's the biggest one they've seen in a long time. But the last battle has so many things that have to happen before it that is common knowledge in this world, and him being on the Blight would know that more than anybody. So that kind of drove me nuts. Like, the fact that he called it the last battle, I just didn't like that. But, I thought all the battle prep was cool, though. That was a pretty good scene. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the parts with Min were great. I love that she sees what's to come, and she's like, get me out of here. She, like, leaves town. As far as the prep for the battle, yeah, it felt a little forced to me. It felt like throughout this particular episode, and maybe some of the season, we get that this is a serious thing that's happening to this world. but you're trying to make everything seem like this is a story that you're going to tell for hopefully multiple seasons. And not everything can be forced. Not everything can be the red wedding. You know what I mean?
And I agree with...
You have to sell it to me.
Like, I understand why Moraine thinks that what they're doing is fighting the Dark One, and we'll get to that in a second. But like I said, with Lord Agilmar, he would know that this is not the last battle. And it doesn't need to be the last battle for it to have stakes. You know what I mean? Like, this could just be like, yo, this is the biggest Trolloc raid we've ever seen. Like,
right.
That's still serious in and of itself. It doesn't need to be this end all be all just because it's the season finale. You know what I mean? And I feel like you said, it's forced. And
it's just like, oh, we should have called the Aes Sedai. Like,
yeah, it rubbed me, and all that rubbed me.
Yeah, it was just like, okay, well, we don't know exactly, is this the worst battle you've ever seen? It just felt a little forced. I don't know. I mean, it was okay. What I did like was that initial, like, scene of, like, the Trollocs with the fades. I actually really liked that with the music. I thought the Trollocs weren't great. Some of the CGI was a little off, but I really liked that moment with the fades. It was really cool.
I thought it was weird that they're out there at Tarwin's Gap, and literally their only defense that they have is shooting crossbows. Like, you don't have more types of defense. I mean, I get...
Right, this is a group of people that have been protecting this.
And you got like 15 dudes with crossbows. Like,
right.
That makes sense. Like, you don't have boiling oil or rocks being thrown down. Like, what is this? Like,
right.
That was frustrating to me.
And then you have Lady Amelisa, who is Lord Agelmar's sister, decides to get as many people who have the power, the one power, to come and try to protect the city. So there's like a space where the brother is, and then beyond that is where she's going to be protecting the city, so right outside. And so Nynaeve and Egwene come, stage left, into a place, and they all use the one power. And because it's such a burst of power, I think it was 5 women. 2 of them start to burn out. They fall off. Amelisa is like basically high on this power, and she burns herself up. But while that's happening, she's burned Egwene and Nynaeve. Nynaeve goes to Egwene and takes her pain away, and seemingly dies or is like very, very injured.
Yeah, so there's a lot to say about this scene. One, why are they just standing in a field outside the city? You know, like, the power, you don't need to, like, go stand on the wall. Like, go be at the castle and shoot down your power down to them.
Well, maybe because they're connected.
They could all be up there together, just standing there on the wall. Like, that to me was so ridiculous. And like you said, they just walked in, like, off the screen. It's like, okay, we're just going to come in, like, right off here. All right, now we're there. It seemed so fake to me. Now, I will say the use of the power looked really, really cool. And the way they showed them linking, I thought was awesome. And the fact that you could tell that most of the power was coming from Egwene and Nynaeve. You know, they had the more power lines going to them. I mean, I loved all of that. And, you know, showing what it looked like when a woman gets burned out. Again, I thought it was sweet. And, I liked that Amelisa got drunk with the power. You know, like, this is a woman who didn't have enough power to become an Aes Sedai, and now she's inundated with just more than she could ever possibly hope to hold. And it went to her head, and that's something that happens in the books, or at least they speak of in the books. So, I was okay with all of that. The thing I was not okay with is what you just talked about, and how, Nynaeve, doing the Nynaeve thing, goes and, like, tries to siphon some of the power away from Egwene so she'll be okay, but goes through all the same symptoms of being burned out that the other 2 went through, just not to the same degree, like, slightly less. But still, it looked like she was dead. And, I know they did that on purpose. And we all knew she wasn't going to die. But the way that she's healed is just like Egwene, like, leaning over her and crying. And then now she knows how to heal this monstrous wound. That, I mean, it just to me was just it's like it just screamed like we didn't know what to put here, so we're gonna write this down because we had to fill a spot in the plot.
Right. Like, stop that. Like, stop it. Like, don't do that. Like, I'm okay with it being a fantasy, and a lot of fantasy that I've read has been great. There's lots of, like, moments where things like this do happen, but this felt really forced.
And it cheapens the whole death.
It, yeah.
Like the whole idea now, anytime somebody dies, I'm going to be thinking, well, they're not really dead. And, like, at least in Game of Thrones, when they died, you knew they were dead. There was no coming back. Now it's like they're faking us out too much.
Yeah, but that's a different show, and, like, that's okay. To the writers, like, it's a different story. Like, Game of Thrones is not the same.
Yeah, you don't need to mimic it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, this is a different show, and, there are going to be moments when characters die, but, like, this wasn't one, and we knew it wasn't. I think it's like you cheapened it because we knew this was a character that was going to live, and you tried to kill her and then bring her back in the same episode.
Yeah.
It was weird.
On that same note, Perrin and Loyal intercept Padon Fane, who is one of the highlights of this episode, while he is attempting to steal the Horn of Valir, which just so happens to be under the throne of Feldara. How convenient. Which, now again, in the book, I mean, this is like a mythical thing that, they hunt for and people don't really know if it exists or not. It's kind of like the Holy Grail. So the fact that, when they do the way that they do find it in the books was much better to me. I really don't like that it's just sitting under the throne of Feldara for anybody to come get. But Padon Fane, highlight of this episode, I think, one of the highlights of this episode. But he stabs Loyal. So here's another person, another critical character that is in a dire situation now. We don't get to see him healed in this episode, but if Loyal dies, we riot. I'm telling you right now. If Loyal dies, we riot. So you better fix it. What'd you think of that scene?
Of course, Padon Fane, the actor, is amazing. His whole speech that he gives about basically that they don't want to kill the Emmonsfield Five. They want them to come into their dark side and there's a balance with dark and light, and that they need, and there's a whole thing. And I thought that was really great. And he's just a fabulous actor. Again, this was like a little bit rushed. Like, and I
think it was definitely supposed to be Matt squaring off against Padon Fane.
Sure, and that's fine that it was Perrin, but again, I just wish they had those 2 extra episodes.
Me too.
Because I think that this moment, like, Padon Fane just, like, shows up, like, kills some ladies with some fades, and then goes in, like, gets this horn, like, he says some things to Perrin. It's just so quick. And so there's just, like, so much going on in this episode. He kills Loyal, which was like, wow. But he also kills, like, some of the other characters. Like, everybody dies, basically.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It was too much for me. So the other thing about this scene with Perrin and Padon Fane and Loyal that I kind of noticed and kind of drove me wild is that Perrin was very inactive during this entire episode. What was up with that?
So I totally understand that in the beginning of the season, Perrin had a lot of, like, things happen to him, even though he was not quite the most vocal character. He did accidentally kill his wife, but then he met the Tinkers and he kind of heard about this new lifestyle. But we didn't really hear much else past that. So we didn't really know that Perrin was even having... I mean, I guess he was conflicted, but it was just weird. Maybe if he had felt this way, but then decided one way or the other, but just to kind of stand there and just look brooding, I guess, was not a great Perrin character.
Yeah, I think they definitely needed to vocalize that he was struggling with this decision to not be violent, and then go into that scene where he doesn't do anything. Because, if I'm standing there and Padon Fane is breaking all this down and I see him kill all these people, like, I'm at least going to be wanting to fight him a little bit. I mean, come on, like it seems ridiculous that he would just stand there and let him just opine for this entire scene.
Right.
And not do anything about it.
And not that, like, I'm some sort of writer or something, but, I mean, maybe to have Perrin have, accidentally killed his wife in the beginning, but then to save someone in the end, maybe, like, Loyal, could have been a really cool, like, growth, I guess, during the season. Again, I'm not a writer. I don't pretend to be. But it just was weird that he did nothing. He was just sort of like, just stood there. And had Padon Fane not been such a good character and so well done, I just think it would have just been really boring.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think having Padon Fane in that scene kind of made us overlook that a little bit.
Right.
And then when you go back and watch it, you're like, dude, he's literally just standing there. So that was kind of frustrating.
And I feel like Loyal, too. Like, Loyal didn't have a lot to say or do, and so when he's stabbed, you're kind of like, if as a non-book reader, you're kind of like, oh wow, like, but at the same time, you don't have that connection with Loyal like you may or may not have in the books.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, your connection to Loyal as a book reader is a lot stronger, and I can understand why, because you get to spend a lot more time with him in the books, and we don't really get a whole lot of time with him in the show. And in this scene, again, it's like they're kind of just standing there listening, and then all of a sudden, oh, he's stabbed. And then that's the end. Like, what the hell?
Right. It was just, I don't know. I just don't understand. I know that they were trying to wrap a lot of things up, but you know how I feel about the fake deaths.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's not called for. There's no need for it.
But that leads us into the other side of the show, which has its ups and downs as well, I will say. So Rand and Moiraine are making their way towards the Eye of the World, going through the Blight. A lot I liked about this. The way it looks, again, I said that last episode, but the way it looks is just so cool to me. It's nothing like I expected, but way cooler. And we get, again, another fake out with the death, with Moiraine getting stabbed right in the back of the neck in what we find out is a confrontation between Rand and the Dark One, quote unquote. I'm going to put that in quotes the whole time. And I mean, again, as soon as it happened, and then you see the Dark One, you're like, okay, well, she's definitely not dead, right? I mean, it was a lot. So what did you think of this scene?
So I thought the Moiraine Rand stuff was actually fine to me. I thought it was pretty good. You have the fake out death with Moiraine. Eye roll. Just stop trying to fake out deaths. I mean, the Moiraine one was fine to me. It was kind of like,
well, of the three, that one made the most sense, right? Because we find out it's in a dream. So it's like, okay, I get why they did that,
Right. And then you meet this man, and he's calling Rand Luce Theron. He is saying, the last time you came with 99 companions. And just sort of saying all of these things as if Rand is the former dragon. And Rand stabs himself to get out of this dream, which is, I guess, one way to get out of a dream. Then they go to the Eye, which I actually really thought the Eye looked really cool. I thought it looked really cool, and I thought it felt like a place you would probably have someone, and the evil is, coming out from it. It was neat. I actually really liked it, and I liked that when he gets down into the Eye, he sees sort of like visions of Luce Theron at this location, which was just very cool to me, and it really kind of brought the cold open into the episode and what the episode was about.
I agree with everything you just said, and I'm going to say something that may be a little controversial from the book reader perspective, but I really like the way that this ending between Rand and the Dark One, quote unquote, played out. In the book, I mean, I've read it twice and I've listened to it a bunch of times, and it's still very confusing as to what happens at the end of that book. You really only understand it after you've read it a couple times. And this, I think, was a very coherent way of illustrating what they're trying to do moving forward with this storyline. So they go through this battle between Rand and the Dark One. At the end, Rand eventually decides that he's going to seize the power and lash out towards the Dark One, and we'll talk about that in a second. And what ends up happening is he defeats the Dark One at what it seems like, but it cracks the pedestal that they're standing on, which happens to have the ancient symbol of Aes Sedai, and it's cracked. And as soon as it cracked, I understood what they were doing, right? Like these symbols and these things are what I would understand to be the seals on the Dark One's prison. And that's what it seemed like to me, that the Dark One, or this person playing the Dark One, who, book readers know that it's not the Dark One, tricked him into lashing out and breaking the seal on the Dark One's prison. And I thought that was really well done, and a really good way to kind of make it coherent. Now, I gotta know, did that come through for you as a non-book reading viewer?
Yes and no. Like, I don't think it's something that you initially get. I think you understand that this was the first of many battles. You do see the crack at the end, so I think you can put it all together and say, whatever just happened here, something's happened and it's cracked. And so I think they'll go into that more next season. Obviously, it's going to be the next battle, or where they're going to next. So once Rand gets down to the eye, he touches the floor and he is taken to a dream world where he sees what his life could be, or what even he wants his life to be. And that's Egwene and a baby, which I think is the baby from Min's vision from last episode. And so they go through this whole drama where this dark one is sort of showing him what his life could be and saying, if you want this life, you have to take it. You can make the world whatever you want. And I don't know, all of a sudden, Rand's deciding that he wants to do it, and then he's like, it's not what I want. It's what she wants, what Egwene wants. And it was just it was a little corny.
I agree. Well, and it came off way cornier than I think they intended it to. But he was just like, what about what she wants? And it's ugh. But it does have some relevance to the book, because there are times when he's getting played with like that in the book. And that is the realization that he has, that it's not her. It's not the decision, I'm going to make this mine. He's talking to her, and in his mind, he realizes it's not actually Egwene, because of the fact that she's acting like she didn't want to go to the White Tower. So it's a little different, and they kind of, jazzed it up a little bit for TV, I guess. And it just came across as corny. So I get what they were trying to do. He's, Rand realizes he's in a dream because it's not the version of Egwene that he actually loves, right? The one that wants to go be at the tower, the one that wants to do this adventure. And instead it came out as, what about what she wants?
It was a little corny.
It was a little corny, but
it was cute. And I think, it just goes along with what their relationship has been like this whole time. And that Rand has been so bratty about Egwene wanting to go to this life. And so I think at the end, that loving someone is letting them be who they're going to be. And that's okay.
It's deep.
Deep.
Anyway, the show ends with another one of my favorite scenes of the series, and that is the encroaching Shan coming in on their ships, and they bring this huge wave to kill a little girl on the beach, which I think was a little unnecessary. But, I thought it was a really cool way to kind of get you oh God, who are those people? What's going to be next season? And it definitely ended on a high note, which I think they needed to do after some of the things that were in that episode. I think they really needed to go out with a bang. Be like, all right, don't worry, guys, it's going to get better. And hopefully Amazon is going to give them those 12 episodes next season.
That would be nice.
But what was your impression from a non-book reader's perspective on that last scene? What did you think of those people?
Well, please don't kill that little girl. And also, what are these people? Who is this? This is it definitely looked amazing. Visually, it was incredible. You see these women who are using the one power, it's seemingly out of their own control, like they're forced to do it. So that'll be definitely interesting to see what that is and who those people are.
Yeah, we're definitely excited for season 2. I mean, I'm glad that they've already got, I will say, as bad as Amazon was for only giving them 8 episodes, at least they greenlit season 2 before season 1 even came out, so that there's not going to be a huge delay. Now, we just got to hope that everybody enjoyed this and that they weren't soured enough by the last episode that, we still get the hype going into season 2 and they'll pick it up and let it run. I mean, if they can go 8 or 9 seasons with this, it would be perfect, I think.
I agree. I think this last episode did feel like they were trying to do a lot, and I think some things really, really worked, and I think some things didn't, and that's okay. There's a lot going on. They lost Matt. There was COVID. They only had 8 episodes. So I think we can all give a pass to some of the things that happened in this episode.
All right. So our very professional rating system, what would you give this episode on a scale of 1 to 10?
Like a 6 to 7.
Okay, 6 to 7. Yeah, I was going to say right at a solid 6 for me. I don't even need a decimal point. It's just going to be a solid 6. Not a great way to go out, especially after being, following my favorite episode last episode.
I know.
But not as bad as some people have seen. You look on YouTube and it's like the Game of Thrones ending. I'm like, okay, calm down, guys. Like, let's take some breathers here, all right? So it's not that bad, and a lot to be excited for next season.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't forget, we have one more video dropping on this subject. We'll be doing a full season review, kind of giving our overall thoughts of everything that we've seen throughout this season. If you guys have any other shows you'd like us to check out, leave them in the comments, man. We're definitely open to different ideas for things you guys want to hear us drone on about. Be sure to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss our final episode. And thanks for watching. Have a good one.
See you later.